So I would like to welcome everyone. My name is Emily Justice, and I am the Tobacco Use Prevention Education Manager at the Contra Costa County Office of Education. I want to personally thank you for joining us this evening. We know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you spending some of it with us. This is actually our first virtual family and community engagement event, and we were thrilled with the interest, the positive response. We had nearly 200 people pre-register, so we know that this is definitely a topic of interest. So a few logistical items. So you probably noticed that this presentation is being recorded. However, all attendees are muted and not on video, so you don't need to worry about making a surprise appearance in the video. And we will make the webinar available to everyone following the presentation. Please utilize the Q&A box to submit questions. We will monitor the Q&A throughout the presentation. We'll respond directly if we're able, and then we will have a little bit of time at the end to address a few remaining questions that folks might have. We will be utilizing polling during this presentation to gather anonymous feedback from all of you. And lastly, we will push out key resources via the chat box to all attendees, and then we'll also give you some links at the end of the presentation so you know how to access the information and resources you need. So before I pass things off to our presenters, I want to provide a bit of information about who we are, what we do, and then introduce tonight's speakers. So, Derek, if you can go to the next slide, please. So Tobacco Use Prevention Education, or TUPE for short, is a program under the Student Programs Department at the Contra Costa County Office of Education. Our goal is to prevent and reduce tobacco use among young people, including some of the newest and most popular tobacco products on the market, e-cigarettes and vape pens. Our team works alongside all 18 school districts in the county, as well as provides direct service to students who are in some of our county office programs. We have a comprehensive approach, so that includes classroom-based prevention programs in participating middle and high schools, support for those young people and adults who are currently using tobacco, programs and activities that engage young people as partners in our prevention efforts, staff professional development, and then family and community engagement, which is what brings us together tonight. So we are going to do a quick poll just to find out how much you all already know about vape pens. This is an anonymous poll. There's no right or wrong answers. I invite you to answer the following question. Next slide, Derek. So how familiar are you with the topic of vape pens and teens? So choose a number between 1 and 5, 1 with being not at all familiar. Maybe this is your first time really thinking about this topic, up to 5, which is you could be a panelist in this webinar. So somewhere, or if you're somewhere in between, kind of where do you fall? So I'll just wait a moment to gather some additional responses. Okay, I'm gonna give it one more moment. Last call. Okay, so now I'm going to share these results. And so I just want to acknowledge that the most popular response was 2, a little familiar, followed closely by somewhat familiar and very familiar. So most people feel like they fall kind of in that mid-range. So hopefully, no matter where you fall in this range, we've got something for you tonight. So hopefully the information and resources that we share with you, that everybody will have something to take away from this event. So now I have the honor of introducing our speakers. So we have an incredible lineup, some of the most experienced tobacco prevention, youth and adult educators and advocates in our county. So starting with the adults. So 3 of our speakers tonight are members of our TUPE team at the county office. They are Nicole Square and Derek Kirk, youth development specialists, and Marissa Frias, intervention specialist. And then we also have the privilege of being joined by 3 members of the Contra Costa County Courage Youth Health Coalition, AK, CC, and Ryan. Courage, just to tell you a little bit about their group, they are a youth-centered and directed group, and they address health-related issues impacting young people in our county. Members are in grades 8 through 12. They represent communities across the county. And while many things seemed to pause or be canceled last spring, this group actually began meeting more often and quickly adapted their work into a virtual space. I do want to make a quick plug that Courage has live right now their annual video PSA contest. And so we will drop some information in the chat box and share some information at the end of the webinar. But if you know any young people who are looking for opportunities to get involved in this issue, they are accepting entries, and they will be hosting their annual film festival and awards ceremony in December. And again, thank you for joining us tonight, and I am going to pass things off to Nicole.
All right, thank you and welcome. Again, just to go over the agenda, some points of discussion that we'll be talking about. We'll be looking at the data. We'll also be looking at drugs in the adolescent brain. We'll be doing a product overview. We'll be looking at the impact on young people. We'll be sharing some tips for adults. And at the end, as Emily said, we'll have time for question and answers and be sharing some resources. Next slide. And to get some more audience participation, we'd like to hear from you. What percentage of Contra Costa ninth graders have reported using e-cigarettes, vape pens in the last 30 days? And a poll should be coming up. So your options are 8%, 16%, 25%, 39%, and 63%. Go ahead and choose what percentage you believe are ninth graders that are using in the last 30 days. And we'll go ahead and just give another second for people to vote. And it looks like right now a majority of people believe that it is 39%. Derek, if you can go to the next slide, please. So this is a picture of Contra Costa County. As Emily said, it incorporates 18 counties. One click, Derek, please. So the reason that we actually asked this question is that we want to acknowledge that people's perception about use isn't actually the data that we have. So as you can see, the correct answer is actually 8%. 8% of ninth graders within the years of 2017 through 2019 through the California Healthy Kids Survey reported that they used some type of vape pen product within the last 30 days. And just to give some context, 3% of 7th graders, along with 16% of 11th graders also reported use in the last 30 days. Although it's not listed, we also do have data for our non-traditional schools. Our non-traditional schools are comprised of our homeschoolers, our continuation schools, and incarcerated students. Unfortunately, they do have a higher rate of use, reported use, and that's at 25%. So that's our local data, and let's take a look at our some national data that we have. So as you can see here, this is data that's done nationally, and this is, excuse me, as I see it, this is current use of any tobacco product, and this is from year 2015 through 2018. And let's first take a look at the bottom graph, and that's of our middle schoolers. As we can see, they started a little too high, but not as high as high schoolers. They started, it looks like about 8 or 9%, and then around, we saw that decrease through 2017 and increase from 2017 to 2018 to 7.2%. Unfortunately, our high schoolers reported higher use of range of use, about 25%. Again, we also saw a decline between 2016 and 2017. And unfortunately, we saw a sharp increase from 2017 to 2018, bringing it to 27.1% of high schoolers reported use. And again, this, I do want to say that this is of any tobacco product, including vape pens and combustible cigarettes. Next slide. And on this side, this is also national data, but this is just for high school e-cigarette use between 2011 and 2019. And as you can see in 2011, when e-cigarettes were just starting to come onto the market, they're very low usage and it started to increase year by year. We can see here at 2015, it looks like we had kind of hit some point that we thought was kind of our peak. And we started to see it decline in 2016 and 2017. In June of 2015, Pax Lab launches the Juul product. And in 2017, Juul broke away and became an independent company. And unfortunately, we're showing data that within 2017 through 2019, you can see an extreme increase in use once Juul had hit the market, and they're showing an increase of use of 135% nationally. Next slide. And we just want to acknowledge some headlines that you may have seen in the news. So first, starting with, and you can keep clicking, Derek. First, starting with EVALI, you may have heard of e-cigarettes or vaping product use associated with lung injury, quite a title. We call it EVALI. That was making headlines last year. And this was seeing people that had pneumonia-like symptoms and had lung injury. And unfortunately, as of January 2020, the CDC had reported 60 deaths reported with EVALI. The headlines that you may have seen more recently are headlines that show the links between COVID-19 and vape use. And we'll be discussing this a little bit more further in the presentation. You may have also heard of SB 793, California's tobacco flavor ban, which Governor Newsom signed into law in August, and we'll be discussing this more at the end of the presentation. Next slide. And first, we kind of like to start with the brain. That's where most everything starts and ends. You know, your brain has to tell your lungs and your heart to work. So we like to first look at how the brain develops. And the brain develops in a back to forward motion. So in the back here is more where our coordination and our vision develop first. And then as you age, in the middle is your limbic system, which controls our emotion. As you may know, if you have a preteen or a teenager, their emotions and being able to detect and show emotions at that age are pretty much fully developed. The last part of the brain to develop is the front, and that's our prefrontal cortex. And this is the part of the brain that helps us to make decisions and long-term planning. And this part of the brain doesn't actually fully develop until we're 25 years of age, around there. As we may have young people in our lives or remember back to our own teenage years, sometimes that looking towards the future and planning that it's not fully solidified. So when we're working with youth, we really want to make sure that we're aware that literally their prefrontal cortex has not fully developed. We know this information, educators know this information, and so does the tobacco industry. Next slide, please. So here we look at the brain and kind of the effects of drugs on the brain. First, I like to say that nicotine is a part of the tobacco plant. It is a stimulant and it is considered a drug. So when we're looking at stimulants on the reward pathway of the brain, it's really important to understand that there's so much growth and development happening during these teenage years, which is in so many ways is great. But we have to remember that the brain is more vulnerable at this time because it is continuing to develop. If we use drugs during our teenage years, it not only impacts how the brain works in the moment, but it actually affects the development of our brain. This is why teenagers who smoke get more addicted more quickly than adults do. The reward pathway is activated when you do things that make you feel good. So if you eat a piece of chocolate or a chocolate cake, the dopamine in your brain is released, and it tells you that this is really good. You like this. What happens though is when that stimulant is entered, it can, if it's like drugs or something that like nicotine, which is highly addictive, it can hijack and take over control of the reward pathway, so you no longer have control of it. Drugs cause almost twice to 10 times the release of dopamine from this pathway and can occur almost immediately and last longer than dopamine released from normal activities. However, your brain continues to crave the dopamine released after you're done, and you slowly lose control over your choice to use drugs or a product that contains nicotine, especially since these drugs artificially release more dopamine than your body naturally does. This is how people become addicted to nicotine. Next, brain. We like to use these slides because we think it's a really good visual expression of what's happening in an adolescent brain. As you can see, this is like an LA freeway. There are on-ramps and on-ramps happening everywhere. People are going in every different direction. And during your teen years, your brain has a significant increase in synapses, the connections between neurons that are happening in the brain. And during the adolescent years, this is thriving. Your brain looks a little like this freeway. And if you go to the next slide there. And this is the adult brain. As you can see, it's more streamlined. As adults, as we get older, our brain naturally starts to prune away some of these additional connections and helps consolidate your learning. By the time that you're in your early to mid 20s, your brain has reduced the number of synapses or freeways, and this allows for processing more information to be smoother and more efficient. And I'm going to pass it there.
All right, that sounds fun. If you look at this picture right here, this is average desk you might find in somebody's home or a kid's student's work area. I want you to use your peepers for all the people out there. See if you can identify the hidden vape products in there. See if you can count how many hidden vape products you could find. If you want to add it to the chat, put your numbers that your guess is. I'm gonna give you about a hot 30 seconds to find out how many vape products are hidden in this picture. Go. And if you get it right, I'll give you like a virtual fist bump or something. You know what I'm saying? That's about it. I ain't touching anybody. Couple more seconds. See, this is the time I wish I could see people on the other side, see people literally like that. Want to see that face. All right, 10 more seconds. Oh, we got comments. Should I see comments? Oops. Okay, well, if you got 6, you're correct. There are 6 of them hidden in plain sight. So obviously they blend in well. If you're not associated with vaping, tobacco, vaping products, it can slide past your eyes with no problem. These products change shape, size. They mimic things that are in students' pencil bags, in their backpacks. So we got to kind of be diligent. So us in the TUPE world, we got to kind of stay close to the ground because these products change so frequently. And just this quick snapshot, you can see how easily they can be not even concealed. They're just in plain sight, just sitting right there. So you have to be just up on what's out there because they change so frequently and our young people are savvy with it. So we're going to go through a quick history of these products because they morphed over time. And sitting in front of me, I have a bunch of confiscated items. So you can get firsthand visuals of what's actually been in the hands of our young people. We tend to do this every school year. We check in with our districts, our principals, VPs, and we say, hey, do you have any confiscated items? Wait, am I talking fast? Because she don't look like, okay, just want to make sure. I don't want to go too quickly. We get confiscated items from the middle schools, high schools, and we take those items and we deliver it to parents so they can see what's actually in the hands of young people. So I'll show you what we have confiscated, which we have over 100 products that we've collected over, actually not even last couple of months, we kind of revamped the box because there's so many products out there. So when we're looking at vaping, the first generation were called e-cigarettes, e-hookah. The original design, the purpose of vaping, somebody said, hey, I want something that's like smoking, but not smoking to help smokers quit. It was designed to be a cessation device. Sadly, no product on the market has that tag of being able to help people quit correctly. Now, there's some people who do quit, but we're looking at the numbers and it shows more people are being addicted to the products than actually quitting. So the first generation looked like a cigarette. As you can see, it has the shape, the cylinder, it looks like a cigarette. That bottom part, the one on the left, that's what they call the cartridge. It has the flavor. It has a liquid where they took nicotine from tobacco and turned it into a liquid, and they call it e-juice. So this is an example of it, and I'll break it down a little bit. But this is e-juice. So they put e-juice in these products. Basically what you do, you put your mouth on it, you inhale. Once you inhale, it activates a little battery. This battery heats up this liquid and turns it into a cloud. For all those people out there like, oh, that sounds nice. It's not. It's not vapor. They want you to say vapor because it sounds nice. It's actually an aerosol. So when you have water droplets plus other chemicals, it turns into an aerosol. So when people are vaping, they're actually aerosolizing. Nobody wants to say that because it's a big goofy word. But when they say vapor, it sounds nice, but it's actually aerosol. So all these products, the output, the cloud, the white cluster, is actually aerosol. So when we tell young people, think about Axe body spray, cologne, perfume, Lysol, Febreze. We try to give that understanding that you wouldn't just inhale those chemicals because it might have some water, but there's other things attached. So that's what's in these products. So first generation was e-cigarette, looks like e-cigarette. Sorry, looks like a cigarette. E-hookahs were similar, they just had a different kind of color. The e-cigarette, the bottom part, the white part, that's usually rechargeable. And then when the cartridges, which we consider a cigarette butt, was done, you would take it, throw away, and buy a replacement. So out of all the products that we have at our at the county office, we only have one that looks like an e-cigarette. Yeah, it's goofy. Yeah, only one. It's only one. So that tells us that young people don't like these because it looks like a cigarette. Their generation knows cigarette bad, smoke, get cancer, die, hole in your throat. They get it. So e-cigarettes, they don't touch these. So e-hookahs, you might have seen a few years back because middle schoolers are broke. So they were a little bit cheaper. They were disposable. So young people will buy e-hookahs because it's a lot easier. What you will see more often are what called vape pens or wax pens. Now, the difference between a vape pen and an e-cigarette is that you have an open area called a clear atomizer. That's where you put your own e-juice in. So you can add your own e-juice to these. Whereas with the e-cigarette, you were only confined to what flavors the company sold. These, so many options, so many flavors. We'll talk about flavors later, but young people tend to love these because the flavors on these can be changed out. If you like it, you can make your own. There's so many options. So these tend to be a little bit bigger. They usually have a fire button. You hold it down for a couple seconds. It heats up the chemical, and then that's what you're inhaling. Now, in the county, wax pens have become prevalent, and a wax pen is basically designed for vaping THC oil. And if you don't know, THC is the chemical inside of marijuana that gets people high. So young people will buy these, and this was in the hand of a young person. They will buy the cartridge, and ultimately this cartridge you would get from like a dispensary. This part you would buy your own, it's rechargeable. And this part you would get from a dispensary. Depending on the potency of the THC, it costs whatever the price, $40 and up or so. I was kind of hoping that our young people weren't using these, but we're seeing them more in middle school now, not just high school. And when it comes to these products, they change brands, names. They're pretty easy to spot. This one I actually found from a county, as you can see, it has a character Mario. It's called a Mario Kart. This one actually has 83 to 87% THC. So this is almost four times as strong as a traditional combustible cannabis plant. So a young person can take this, pull it out their pocket, take a couple of hits. It goes in their system. They can be high in minutes. And sadly, because this is not like traditional tobacco, you don't smell smoke. You might smell whatever flavors in there. And if they have something sweet or fruity, you won't ever know. And then when it comes to the wax pens, they change shape, size. This one shaped like a key fob, but it flips out. It has a mouthpiece. So young people keep these handy because you don't even know what it looks like if you're not aware. So they are easy to conceal. they make the products easily to hide. So wax pens, vape pens, these products are the ones that are on the market that young people are buying. And sadly, we're getting more and more cases of the wax pens showing up in school. Then the next group is called mods. These are a little bit bigger. These are the ones that are a little bit people who are in the world of vaping. You're not gonna find these on the shelves like Walmart and Target. These you have to get from like a vape shop, or you buy them online. It's customizable. It has buttons. You can regulate the heat. The higher the voltage, the bigger the clouds you get. Ultimately, sadly, the higher you raise the voltage, the more toxins you pull into your body. So when young people want to get that big cloud or get that big pull in, they're actually getting sicker. These range from $50 to $100. Like I said, you customize it. The actual mod might be about 50, 60, 70. The clear atomizer might be about 30. Mouthpiece might be 20. So you can kind of build it on your own. I was thinking that young people weren't using these, but we have a handful of these at our office. So young people are buying these and they're getting them directly from the store. So those are mods. And then the last group is a pod systems. Yes, I say it with disgust and disdain because pods have taken over our schools. Pod systems, one particular company has kicked it off, and that company is Juul. So when Juul hit the market in 2015, it settled as one of the other vaping products, but it quickly became the cream of the crop, and we'll break that down in a minute. So now Juul was so efficient in their creation and their marketing as well as the product that other companies started following suit. So in all actuality, a pod is similar to an e-cig. It's just that instead of a cartridge, you call it a pod, but it's an exclusive chemical on the inside that makes it a little bit more stronger. And we'll talk about that in a second. So when it comes to all these products, they have the general setup for all of them. You have a battery that you can recharge, heat up, or if it's disposable, throw it away. An atomizer, that's what actually heats the liquid. It turns that liquid into an aerosol. And then you have the liquid, which they pull nicotine from tobacco, turned it into e-liquid. You add other flavors and other such to make it palatable. And then you have a cartridge. Some of them, that's where you hold the liquid, or internally, they have like its own compartment. And then you have the aerosol. That's what people kick out when they exhale, what they breathe in. So when we're looking at pod systems, which is where we kind of settle because this is the most prevalent, and at the same time, it's taking over our schools by storm. There's 3 versions of pod systems. You have the closed pod, which is, like I said, you have your Juuls, you have your other companies where you have a pod that goes with the exact device. So there's no interchanging. You have to buy Juul pods that goes with the Juul device. So it's a closed system. When this is done, the liquid's done, you throw it away, you buy new replacement pods, and it goes like that. Now, these Juul pods are supposed to only be used up and then thrown away, but young people can Google it and hack it. You can find a way to get in your Juul pod and add your own liquid or another substance. So these are closed systems. Open systems is where you have a pod, but if it won't break on me, you add your own liquid. I don't know if you can kind of see, these have little filler holes on the top, and you add your own liquid, and they have a certain kind of e-juice. It's not the traditional kind. Soren makes a couple versions of these. So these are pod systems where they actually add their own liquid to it. And I think this one is one of the popular with the young ladies. I don't know what a pink one, but it's one that you add your own liquid to on your own. So those are closed, open systems. Then the last group, which is the one that we're seeing the most as of, I would say last school year, are disposables. So disposables are where they have everything internal. So you only have the battery, the liquid, everything on the inside. You don't charge it. Once you're done hitting it, you just throw it away. So Puff Bar is the main one that we're seeing, but other crops, other brands are jumping up, and that's what we're seeing all across the board. So those are the 3 versions of pod systems. And I have to ask our young people, seeing that you guys are foot soldiers and advocates on the ground, what products are you seeing in your school and community? I just showed you a host of them, but tell us, what are you seeing in your school and community? Let's shoot it to AK first. Sir, what are you seeing in your school and community when it comes to vape products?
When it comes to vape products, what I usually see very often, well, are you asking like how they use it or where they use it?
Hey, you know what? We'll take it all. We will take it all.
Okay.
How and
So
where? Don't
in
say
school,
who.
like on Zoom meetings, I usually see them putting the Juul like in their hoodie sleeve,
Mm.
right? So when they like pose in the camera like this, they're actually juuling and they're inhaling it all into that same sleeve.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying they're doing this virtually?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Virtual vapors. I don't even like
Hmm.
saying it. Okay. So you're
Right.
seeing them on
And
camera. Wow.
and another thing, in middle school, which was like a year ago, um, kids just went to the bathroom in the stall, started vaping. Usually that's how it usually is. That's how it usually begins.
So on campus, they would go to the restrooms, but now seeing that everybody's virtual, you're
Hmm.
saying you do see students actually vaping on screen.
Hmm.
Wow. Okay. Okay. CC, what do you got? What are you seeing?
I mostly see the disposable puff bars.
Ah,
Um, Sometimes when I'm walking home, I will see actually wrappers of them, just like spread out. Um, I don't see big, the big ones, the ones that
mhm.
have the block. I can't remember the name.
Mods.
Um,
Okay, they stink.
but I don't see those as often. It's
Okay.
mainly wax pens and puff bars that I see at my school.
Okay. So wax pens and okay, wax pens and puff bars. Got it. All right. So we're looking at disposables and we're looking at the ones that use THC. Okay.
Mhm.
Ryan, what you got in your area?
Basically, what both of them said combined. I don't even see jewels that often in high school.
Mhm.
They're just kind of too expensive to keep refilling. And so the disposable ones are a big jump right now. And like they're even making bigger disposable ones so they can, like the one that you showed, I think it only has less than like 200 uses, but then they're making bigger ones and those ones can be used up to like 400, 500 uses, and I see kids go through them like daily, two, maybe they'll make it to 2 days, but
Wow. Can I ask you this? Would you happen to know the price range or what some of the people you may know may be paying for their disposables?
so for the small ones, when I see it, I see people selling them kind of in bulk.
Hmm.
So it's like three of the small ones for, I don't know, $75. So that's 15 each. And
Hmm.
they go through those in probably a week.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then the big ones, I see those probably go for two for like 50, and those would be like $25. So they're not super inexpensive, but I know that the jewel, you have to put more money into it because you have to buy those individual
Placement pods.
pods.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And she's exactly right. So as with usage, you need more. So the traditional puff bar is about this size. And this is the one that she said you'll get three for the price of for that three price, $15 each. This is what you call a puff bar plus. So it's bigger. It has, I think, maybe 500 hits. So this, like she said, this is 100, 300. They'll pay extra because you get more hits out of this. And like I said, they're all disposable. The battery lasts as long as the product, as many hits, and then you just throw it away. Okay. Thank you guys for sharing. Very interesting to see what you're seeing in classrooms. So in classrooms, you see them in the bathroom, you see them littered on the ground on the way home, you're seeing the cost. So this is what our young people's landscape looks like when it comes to vaping. And that's why we got to constantly have education around it because of the landscape changing so frequently. So what makes pod systems so critical is the component inside of it called salt-based nicotine. So the creators of Juul, as much as I don't like them, they were two intelligent gentlemen from Stanford. They graduated from Stanford and they came upon a chemical called nicotine salt, which is a highly concentrated form of nicotine. So if you smoked one pack of cigarettes, there's 20 cigarettes in a pack. That's equivalent to 20 milligrams of nicotine. With the Juul pod and the potency of this nicotine salt, if you vape one Juul pod, it's equivalent to 41 cigarettes worth of nicotine. So imagine you're getting twice as much nicotine than you would from a traditional cigarette. So now when it comes to these pod systems, young people aren't just hitting them leisurely on the weekends or when they're having fun. Now they have to hit them because their body's starting to exhibit addictive behaviors. And so puff bars, equivalent to 50 cigarettes worth of nicotine. Eon Stick, which is another version, another company, 68. And then Soren is 90. So these are increasing. And then if you're looking at, like I said, the Puff Bar Pluses, you're getting more nicotine because the content in it is so concentrated. So imagine a young person who never touched a cigarette, first time taking a hit of one of these products is like, pow, they're getting a rush of nicotine into their system. And so now they don't even realize that they're being drawn in and addicted to this chemical. That's one of the top, one of the most addictive substances on the planet. So if you look at this graph, it breaks down what it looks like as far as nicotine content. If you look at that red line on the bottom, that's free-base nicotine. So that's like your e-cigs, your vape pens, your mods. It's a free-base nicotine. The green line represents if you smoked a cigarette, how the nicotine will hit your system and then slowly filter out through your body. That blue line is what Juul and all these pod systems have, which is nicotine salt. They designed it to mirror a cigarette almost perfectly. And it is one of the only products on the market that's as close to smoking a cigarette as possible. So when they stumbled upon the components of the Juul and the other knockoffs, they came as close to smoking a cigarette as possible. And this is what our young people are using now, a very potent, a very targeted product that introduces their body to huge sums of nicotine at the same time. And when we're talking about the components, we always teach young people nicotine's not good. They don't always get that message like, oh, you know what, I don't see myself as addicted. It's not even tobacco. We do have to highlight what's also in these chemicals that's coming out in the aerosol. So all these are a handful, and this data we're still finding out as we go along. These chemicals are found in many of the vaping products because when you apply heat to whatever content you have science-wise, you're going to create dozens more. So when we're talking young people, we usually highlight the ones that are underlined are dangerous or cancer-causing. We usually highlight and focus on the ones on the right-hand side, which is lead, lithium, magnesium, cobalt, calcium, sulfur, iron. Those are all metals. You have nanoparticles of metal that are coming off the actual battery and the coils that are getting into the aerosol. So even if you got into an argument with a young person like, well, I used to kind of have 0% nicotine, doesn't matter. Just putting your mouth on these products and inhaling, you're pulling in nanoparticles of metal. We do not know what that's going to do long-term, and our lungs are not equipped to hold metal. So when young people think it's safe, they equivalent it because it's safer than cigarettes, so to speak. They think it's completely safe, which is not. So we have to be able to lay this out in clarity so they can understand what's going in their body when they're using these products. And so I'm going to ask everybody, have you or someone you know been impacted by tobacco-related illness, whether it's cigarette smoking or whether it's vaping? Like I said, the goal was for vaping to help people quit, but we're seeing that it looks a lot different nowadays with the vaping products. But have you or someone you know been impacted by tobacco? Oh my. A couple more seconds. Well, looking at the results, of course, many people say yes. And the numbers still stands in our country. There's roughly about 1,300 people who die daily because of tobacco, whether it's firsthand smoke, secondhand smoke. The thing that people don't understand about it, it's not a right-away drug. It's not like you do a hard substance and you kill over right away. It's a slow killer. It's a process. So that's why a lot of people do not really equivalent it to being that bad. But 74% of you say yes. And I would even challenge the people who said no or not sure. If you go back into your family history, possibly look at somebody who might have had a heart attack or a stroke or such. Back in the day, smoking was so prevalent that you would do at restaurants and bars that people were impacted by it. So I guarantee if you look back at your family history, you might find at least one or two people that may have died in correlation to a smoking cigarette or tobacco. So that's why we continue to teach on it. It's not one of those things where people say, hey, this is all positive. There's only negatives when it comes to tobacco. the industry tries to paint it as it's not bad, but when it comes to the products that they put out there, there's definite impacts on your body. So when we're looking at the lungs, when you're vaping, it causes inflammation and irritation. Your airways sometimes become congested and also can cause it to be inflamed, making it difficult to breathe. You destroy your air sacs, your lungs that are supposed to expand. You sometimes, when vaping, they have a condition called popcorn lung, where they don't expand fully, kind of crackles, pops, and you don't get as much air in. And so they're seeing that on a regular. It's not guaranteed to be going with vaping, but they have seen a correlation with people that vape often and see what happens internally in your lungs. And then, of course, anytime you introduce something into your lungs, especially at this magnitude, it does weaken your immune system. And so we always tell young people that you have to be mindful of like the long-term effects. We're still seeing reports come across, but what we're seeing now are regular symptoms that's taking place in the bodies. So you have the risk of blood clotting if you're vaping. The aerosol, it can impair your blood vessels, the functioning of it, and your blood vessels do get stiff, and the flow of the body is restricted and inhibited. So even though we know nicotine, it increases and boosts the heart rate, makes your heart works extra, the background things is that your arteries and your airways are being affected by the aerosol that you're pulling in. Remember, it's not vapor. People say vapor because they only think water. It sounds nicer. This aerosol is impacting the body in a different kind of way. And when it comes to COVID-19, we're all still in pandemic season. They discovered this early on because vaping does have a negative impact on your immune system. People who vape are more likely to have worse symptoms when it comes to COVID-19, and it increases their increases their chances of contracting COVID-19. So when we're talking about anything inhaling, it does damage to your body. When it comes to vaping, that aerosol breakdown internally makes it difficult for young people to fend off the products, fend off the sickness that they could have enter into their body. And as you can see, this information on this slide is given from the Tobacco Prevention Toolkit. They're from Stanford, not the Jewel people, by the way. They're from Stanford. They created a host of information and they collectivized this to kind of give us an understanding. And this also goes for, they also have a cannabis awareness toolkit. So this goes for both because you're compromising your body by what you're taking in when you're inhaling these products. And ultimately, while we are concerned, there is a bridge. When it comes to usage, young people who use vaping products are 4 times as likely to go on to traditional tobacco. We don't like to say gateway drug exclusively, but we are seeing young people who would never pick up a vaping product or a tobacco product use a vaping product. And it's not the same across the board. It's not the student that's absent. It's not the student that's not checked in class. We're seeing AP students. We're seeing athletes. All walks of life in the youth realm are using these products. So if they do, they're 4 times as likely to go on because their body, they're taking in nicotine and introducing this addictive substance. What I have found talking to young people, I met a young person, a high schooler, who the products that the friends were using, they were trying to quit vaping. So they give it to her to you, like say, hey, get rid of this. And so she would take them to support her friends, but ultimately she tried one and then they kept giving her products. She kept trying them to the point where she became a regular user and she wanted to stop. She knew she needed to stop. But like I said, with these products that are disposable, you don't know how much you're using. So for her, her only solution was, well, let me buy cigarettes. That way I can find out how many I'm using a day and taper off. So for her to quit vaping, she picked up cigarettes because she could say, well, I use 5 today. Let me try and use 2 tomorrow. But now she has to smoke and all the other thousands of chemicals that come with tobacco. So our young people are still being informed and we're trying to give them an understanding about the dangers of these products. And this is a landscape of the county. If you're looking at the color portions, the darker the red shows the higher level of low income pockets in the county. And as you can see, it's sprinkled throughout. So, you know, West County and then Concord, Antioch, those areas have a higher concentration of low income housing and people that live there. If you look at this map in conjunction with that one, there's a correlation between where they sell tobacco within 1,000 feet from schools. So this includes vaping products. So if you look at the 2 maps side by side, you can see there's a trend where they're selling tobacco and vaping products close to low income areas. So socially, they're targeting certain groups, and it's been like that for a long time because they know that stress or lack of education or diversity, those are the areas they aim for to be able to sell and make money and profiting off of their products. And so we're still teaching on this because young people, they're getting their hands on them fairly easy, and we'll talk to in a second. As I said, they're on stores. I'm sorry, they go to stores mainly to buy these products. Now I know somebody's out there like, well, stores can't sell it to them. That's illegal. We know that. We all know that. But I've been with the county, the health department. We've done in-store sting operations and undercover youth, and they'll send a young person in to buy something. Person at the counter says, "Nah, get out of my store. I don't sell to kids." They get the little thumbs up. But then I talk to young people, and they say, "Well, it's different because I know the guy behind the counter. I've lived in my neighborhood for 10 years, so he knows me. So if they see the same kid coming in, day out, buying Takis and ho-hos, and they're like, wait a minute, I know him. So they're more inclined to sell it to that young person. So the young people are buying them directly from the store. That's including vape shops. A couple of them are desk right now. They came from students that bought them directly out of vape shops. Ryan, a couple years ago, she took pictures of some of her other students in her school. They had selling them on their social media. Instagram, Snapchat. And the sad thing about that, when they sell it on social media, it's a closed account. So adults aren't privy to what the young people are posting. So they're selling them in bulk or individually. Say, hey, I got a deal. Some of these kids are savvy. They're entrepreneurs. They're selling them with discounts and they have turnip days, all of that kind of stuff. So we have to be kind of vigilant to kind of keep an eye on even the social media side. And then the internet, very few young people buy it on the internet. That's gone away. They don't actually buy them online as much anymore because they've cracked down a little bit more. But 2 years ago was a lot simpler. As you look up here, the advertisement, this one is a starter kit. This is my blue. I tried it as an experiment. I tried to see if my middle school son at the time could buy this. He found it online, ordered it with my credit card, sent it to my house. It came in a manila envelope addressed to him with nothing on the outside other than his name. And he got it for $1, free shipping. This product is like $20 on the market, but starter kit for $1. So young people can get their hands on them very easily, whether it's in stores or they're talking to other people. And then if you're going to anywhere, 7-Eleven, some of the drugstores still carry them. You go to supermarkets, they sell these products, so they're everywhere. And like I said, these introductory prices, man, they will grab your attention. $8, $5. These products that start off at $30, you're getting them for a discount. And sadly, the companies and also the stores know that if you get the young people to try them, they become addicted, and then you may have a lifetime customer if they live in an area. So it's all a system, a game to continue to make the money flow in. And so, where do you see advertising for these products? How often do you see them? So this is what we see from our side. I think I'm gonna start with Cece this time. Cece, thinking about the products, where do you see advertising, and how often do you see them?
I do mainly see it on social media.
Ah,
Not as much on Instagram, but mainly Snapchat.
mm,
Um, and like once in a while, I might see a commercial for it on my TV, but it's not like something like alcohol. Like everyone does that and it's considered normal.
mhm,
So you see that more often, but vaping is kind of like closed closet case.
okay.
Mhm.
So more on social media. You see a commercial every now and then, though. Okay,
Yeah.
I got it. I got it. Ryan, what about you?
Yeah, like what Cece said, it's all on Snapchat and like those things that go away within a certain amount of time. Those ones are the way, that's the way that they do it, and they do the deals and like the buy three get one free or whatever you want to call it. And then when we were in school, it would be in the bathrooms, like always, hey, I have a few in my backpack right now, like I'll sell it to you for $20. And
Uh,
then they'll bring their cash to school to go buy one. And then there'll be like a routine every day, that one bathroom where you know that one person's going to be with all of it in their backpack to sell to you.
mm,
All that was what it was when we were in school.
oh, Victor Vapor in the bathroom. I got it. I got it. Okay. AK, advertising. I mean, you're transitioning. You went from middle school to high school, but would you see a lot of advertising when you were in middle school last year?
During middle school, I didn't really see much advertising, like apart from ads on like YouTube or like on TV. But other than that, like kids never really sold vape. Like they never really sold jewel pods or anything like that. I don't know. Maybe they'll probably do it in high school now.
Uh, let's hope not,
You
especially
know,
when it's
let's hope
virtual.
not. But you never know. Some of these kids are persistent.
Well, I like how you guys all add to the different landscape of it. Like it used to be Juul. Juul was hot for like 2 years, and then other products came along. Other products with different flavors. Other products with ease of use. So the landscape of it changes, and we kind of got to try to be ahead of it as much as possible. So thank you for sharing your outlook because we need to know this because I'm not back in high school, and nor do I desire to because they are crazy. Um, and so, oh wait, I'm going to pass this back off to you.
All right, thank you. Well, as our wonderful youth, our courage said, they unfortunately are seeing a lot of advertisement for e-cigarette, and they're getting a lot of exposure to these advertisements. So this image goes and shows you kind of where they're seeing it. So 14.4, this is national data again, 14.4 million youth are exposed to advertisement at a retail store, whether that be in a local 7-Eleven or a local liquor store or within Safeway, they're seeing it at a retail location. 10.5 million youth reported seeing it through the internet, whether that be social media, YouTube. As our youth just said, they're seeing it everywhere online. Also, 9.6 million youth reported seeing it on TV, as Cece said. The numbers obviously are a little bit lower than retail stores and such, but they are still seeing it on TV. And about 8 million students are seeing it in magazines and newspapers. The data down at the bottom, I think, is very useful because it shows overall exposure and it tells the difference between middle school and high school. So with middle school students, 66% of middle school students are seeing that they're seeing at least one source. If you look at the colors, the yellow is one source, purple is two source, blue is three source, and all four sources is the red at the top. So 12% are seeing at least four sources, but 66% are seeing at least one source of advertisement for an e-cigarette product during their day. And with high school, the number even goes up higher to 71% of high school students are seeing at least one source of e-cigarette advertisement. Click, please, Derek. And there's a reason for this. The reason for it is the amount of money that the e-cigarette companies spend on advertising. So as you can see here, the green bars are showing the dollars that are spent on e-cigarette advertising. And this data is from 2011 through 2014. But I think you can see the trend, and unfortunately, I believe that it is going higher. So as you can see here, relatively low money spent on advertising. E-cigarettes were becoming new on the market, and we had low rates of youth saying that they had smoked any type of e-cigarette product in the last 30 days. As the year goes on to 2012, you can see more money is spent, more students are reporting use. 2013, that is the same. 2014, they're spending about $115 million on advertising. And this is just for e-cigarettes. This is not including for any type of combustible cigarette advertisement, just for e-cigarette advertisement. So they are spending a lot of money. And in the next slide, we will see just some of the ads that they are spending the money on. I wanted to show this one because I think it shows, like Derek talked about, there is no specific group of youth that is using this product. And the tobacco industry does not care who uses their product as long as people are using their product. And they unfortunately have the means and the money to spend advertisements so that each individual person feels like they're reaching out to them. So in this advertisement, you can see next to each other, they're both for Juul. One is of a young African-American woman, one is of a young European woman, both for Juul. They have the money to put out both ads to try and get as many young women to start Juul. Click, please. And this one is for Blue, Make You Feel Like a King. What we find interesting about this is at the top, it says important, where usually the Surgeon General warning would go, it says less harmful to your wallet. So instead of talking about less harmful to your health, they're trying to say, hey, it's cheaper, come buy me. And then in this one, it's the ad of what they did use with combustible cigarettes. Again, another young, attractive person back, looks like in the 50s, trying to sell combustible cigarettes. And then to the left is the new Juul, and it's saying, why quit? Just switch to Blue. That has been their advertisement since the beginning. As Derek said, they have tried to market these as safer alternative, but as Derek showed previously, the high amount of nicotine levels in them just make them extremely addictive and harmful to the health side. And you can just go ahead and click through the next two. And these two, again, are to reach out to young people, right? Pure Bliss, young woman. It's all about young people. And then not discriminating it against, the one to the right is Blow at Pride. So they're specifically reaching out to the LGBTQ community and trying to get them to use their products also. And unfortunately, we do see higher rates with that community. And again, the tobacco industry knows that, and they prey on youth and other communities to use their products. Next slide, please. So this is just a little piece of data. It's showing 70% of U.S. middle school and high school students who have used the tobacco product in the last 30 days have used at least one flavored tobacco product during this period. And as our youth have said, as Derek has said, the flavors are what really attract young people. And if you go to the next slide, we'll show you just a few of the flavors that the industry has put out. And you may have noticed as these are coming onto your screen, these are not usually products that I think adults would say, hey, let's try this product. These are obviously targeted towards young people. Hulk Tears, over to the far right is Yoda Pea. We have chicken and waffles, which sounds great to eat. And they know this, and they're hoping that young people will say, hey, I want to try what that tastes like. And when they go into the vape shops, they are able to try the flavors before purchasing. A lot of smoke shops have testers out, encouraging people to try different flavors, find what they like, and then they can purchase it. Also, there's Psycho Unicorn. Currently on the market, there are over 15,500 different flavors of e-juice, e-liquid, that youth can use in their vaping devices. Next slide. So we thought we'd talk a little bit about the policies, what are the laws regarding tobacco use. And I'm going to start kind of on the big picture and looking at federal regulations. And we're not going to go way back in history towards all the tobacco, but we're going to start in more recent history. As of 2016, the US FDA issued its final ruling that gave that agency oversight authority of all tobacco products, and that now includes cigars, hookah, and e-cigarettes. Before 2016, they did not have regulatory authority over those items, and they now do. So in theory, this allows the FDA to restrict sales of these products to youth, also prohibit flavors, and take other actions to protect public health. In December 2019, Congress approved raising the purchase age of tobacco products to 21 across the country. So anywhere in the United States, you must be 21 years of age to purchase these products. California kind of was ahead of the curve. We did this in 2016. So in 2016, we raised the minimum age from 18 to 21. So now the rest of the country is in line with California on the purchase age of tobacco products. But as Derek said, unfortunately, this does not prohibit youth from purchasing these products. There is still work to be done around that. There is some good news that has come out of California again with the passage and signage from Governor Newsom of SB 793, which would ban the sale of tobacco and nicotine products in flavors other than tobacco. So when this law is put into effect, you would not be able to find the flavors in the e-juice. Where it is currently is that they have filed for a referendum. The coalition is leading a campaign for a veto referendum, and this coalition needs 623,000 plus valid signatures to get this on the ballot in 2022. So this has stopped the implementation of SB 793. With over 40 million Californians in our state, we foresee them unfortunately being able to get the 600,000 signatures that they're going to need to stop the implementation of this bill and then take it to the people to vote on in 2022. So there's good and bad news there. The good news is looking at a local level is that local governments have been taking it on themselves, and they've been making a lot of progress in banning the flavors. So even though we're still working on it towards it at a state level, local governments are doing this on their own. Whether it be Richmond or El Cerrito or Contra Costa County in their unincorporated areas, local entities, local governments are taking a lead on this and really pushing forward where the state and the federal are kind of delaying. And our Courage students are amazing at speaking up and getting involved, at speaking at city council meetings and getting their voices heard and talking about how flavors and the tobacco industry really prey on the youth. Next slide, please. So we again want to hear from our youth, and I'm going to first ask Ryan, what are your hopes for the future of tobacco vape pens, and what are some tips that you would want to remind parents of when talking to a young person?
So for the future, what I would really like to see is that there's a huge decline in seeing it in the school environment. And like Derek wouldn't have to have any of those confiscated items in his possession like at all, and he wouldn't have to be able to get them so easily. That's what I would really hope for, because it's just unfortunate that I can't like go to the bathroom without seeing it there. For tips like in the future or for parents, I would just be educated about what this is. Like all the parents that are here at this webinar, like huge like congratulations for you for coming and learning about it, because I know a lot of parents don't know about it. And if they know and they can go to their kid or like anybody that they know who's younger who is using a vape product, and they can go and educate them themselves, then they can I stop the whole cycle and stop the process of what's going on. And that's the first step, is just getting educated about what the harmful effects are to then relay the message on to somebody else who needs to know it.
Thank you, Ryan. I couldn't agree more. How about AK? AK, are you there? Why don't we go to Cece then? Can you give me some of your hopes for the future and some tips for talking to parents? And then if AK's on, he can answer after Cece.
Yeah. I would say my hopes for the future is like, yeah, what Ryan said, and that we don't have to worry, like, that if someone says I'm gonna go hang out with my friends, like, to their parent, they're not saying I'm gonna go smoke. Um, so like a lot of trust to have. Um, I'd say like if you found out that like your child like was vaping or something, make sure like don't yell at them because they know that what they did was wrong, but like advertisements and peer pressure pull them into a lot of things.
Thank you.
Mm.
And AK, are you there? Hope we didn't lose him.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, perfect.
So I just have to answer those two questions, right?
Yes, what are your hopes for the future around tobacco and vape pens? And do you have any tips or reminders that you would like to give parents when talking to their young person?
So my hopes for the future, regarding tobacco and vape pens is that, uh, it'll slowly decrease the use of it. That Californians and people in this county would realize that the damage that they're doing to their body while using those uh, substances. And some tips that I would remind parents when talking to a young person regarding this topic is, instead of just saying this is bad, I don't think kids are really going to listen to that, because then they'd want to do it more. Like if you tell them like not to play video games at night, they'd want to play video games at night. They're a kid. So instead of saying don't do this, give them a reason why you shouldn't, because otherwise they're going to get hooked.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you guys for answering and being a part of the presentation. You guys have given us such insight into what you're seeing. It's been a long time since I've been in high school, so we really appreciate your insight. And we want to go over some tips for adults. Before I want to start giving tips for adults, I do want to acknowledge the many questions that came in regards to how to identify if their child is using. And that's kind of a difficult question to answer. Most people frame it in identifying behaviors of withdrawal, and that lets you know if your child is possibly addicted to a substance. What can be difficult with behaviors to withdraw are that if you have a teenager or a preteen, some of these come with typical behaviors. So one of the signs of withdrawal is irritability, moodiness. Another is problems paying attention, trouble sleeping, increased or decreased appetite, and powerful cravings, wanting to be alone. So as you can see, some of these behaviors are behaviors of a typical teenager. There are a lot of things going on with teenagers. Their brains are developing, their hormones are changing, especially during this time of COVID and being sheltered in place. There may be behaviors that aren't necessarily attributed to them using a vape pen or a substance. So I just kind of want to give that clarification, and just because your child may be a little bit moody or something like that doesn't necessarily mean that they are using a substance. And the most important thing we think you can do to identify if your child is using is to talk to your child. So these are some tips that we've gathered for adults when talking to youth. And the first one we actually got from a high school student in Far East County, and we were doing this presentation and she was a part of it. And she's like, you should start with, I care about you. She's like, and I kind of was taken back because a lot of parents show so much that they love and care about their children, but it's really important to say it, especially when having a conversation and just letting them know that you really do care about them and their health. And as our youth just said, getting credible information, knowing the facts so that you can have an informed discussion with the young person in your life is really important. Be patient and ready to listen. This is a conversation when you're having with a young person. It's really important to have, as we say, your listening ears on and allow them to do the talking and tell you what's going on. It may be a substance. It may be that they're just struggling with adolescence. It is a very hard time, period. So just being patient and ready to listen is really important. We always say, have a conversation, not a confrontation. When you confront or sometimes it's hard for parents, trust me, I know it's hard for parents. Sometimes you're so passionate, you love this young person so much and you're afraid of what their actions may do. But it's really important to try and check yourself and have that conversation and try and avoid confrontation as much as possible. We also say avoid criticisms and encourage an open dialogue. With encouragement or that confrontation, usually it doesn't matter whether you're an adolescent or an adult, that's going to have people kind of close off and not want to open up about what's happening. And we also ask, setting a positive example by being tobacco free. It's really hard to come to your young person and say, I'm really afraid for your long-term health because I see you using when you yourself are using. But I also know that people that currently use would never want a young person to use because they have already been addicted and they don't want another young person to fall into that trap of being addicted to. So if possible, show that example of being tobacco free yourself. And also, we hope that this presentation starts a conversation, but we also ask that you keep the conversation going. This should be the first conversation. You want to always check in with your young person. I'm like, what is happening? And I know kids are, doing school from home, but as AK said, they're seeing youth vape in their backgrounds of their distance learning. So they're still being impacted. So checking in on how your child is doing and having that ongoing conversation is really important. And the last one that we have is reaching out for support. If you or your child or anyone that you know need help, there are resources out there that we will be sharing with you. Getting credible information, reach out, ask for support. There are many agencies, many programs that can help you and your child. Just reaching out for support is sometimes the first and a very good step. Thank you.
All right. I just wanted to thank Nicole and Derek so much for your amazing presentation and all of you for being here today. We really do appreciate you being here. The Courage students especially, just getting your feedback and hearing from you is amazing. So thank you. We're going to go ahead and we went through the questions that were submitted ahead of time, and we believe we embedded most of the answers directly into the PowerPoint. So if you have any additional questions at this point, you can add them to the question box and we will get them answered. We do have two questions that we took from the questions that were submitted ahead of time that were not answered in the PowerPoint, and I'm going to ask them right now. The first one is for Derek. What are the current teenage trends of drug and alcohol use? And then in addition to that, and also driving while under the influence of marijuana.
Well, when it comes to, drugs and alcohol use, the landscape changes. I will say we do have an emphasis. We focus on tobacco, but there is some crossover in between, tobacco, marijuana. We always urge people to get credible information. We start with tobacco force, tobacco influence. When it comes to the trends, like we highlighted throughout the presentation, but you got to kind of have a conversation with young people to see what's out there, because when it comes to vaping products, you can actually anything that can be burned can be heat up in these products. So we're not seeing a huge diversity of the products that young people are using for our substance abuse. It's mainly just nicotine and marijuana. There are other parts of the country that are plagued a little bit more with other products that they're putting in there. Thankfully, we're not seeing anything extreme. But if you are looking for additional information, we have some of our community partners that offer so much research and data upon data on everything that's being used, from prescription meds to harsher drugs. So please link into the information we're going to share out a little bit. Cool.
Thank you, Derek. And then I have one more question that's here for Nicole. How can community health centers help educate?
So community health centers do so much, and they do educate already. We kind of need more detail on what aspect they're looking about, but we partner with community health centers. A lot of agencies within the community partner with each other. If you're looking for specific resources, we always do point to the Stanford Tobacco Prevention Toolkit. Emily has put those links in the chat box now. It's also a tobacco prevention toolkit and a marijuana prevention toolkit. They have amazing resources, slides, information, activities that anyone can use to help educate the community. And anytime the community can educate each other and support each other, and getting each other out there to talk to city council members or speaking at boards, but educating on the harmful risks of tobacco use. To Stanford Tobacco Prevention Toolkit is an amazing resource.
All right, thank you, Nicole. Another question came in the question box. The suggestion for adults to talk with their kids sound great in theory. However, my teen has no interest in talking to us about anything, especially vaping. If a teen is shut down or moody, what suggestions do you have for having that open dialogue? Derek.
I would first recommend you put a piece of paper in front of you and write down a poem. Starts with roses are red, violets are blue. Heard about vaping. How about you? You can go from there. Like, but no, you can. It's simple. Truthfully, what we recommend for parents is, like, after a presentation that we do like today, it could be a simple conversation. It might be shut down, but we found there's been a lot of headway when you just go to a young person like, hey, I just sat through this presentation. They're talking about vaping. Like, what do you know? Because their landscape is different than what we have. We have data side, but they also have the firsthand. These are experiences coming across. And many times young people, that's why we pulled in Encourage members. They see it from a different lens than we can see it, because we only have it from the, statistics and everything that's coming in. They can tell you what's different. So sometimes they'll tell you more than what you will possibly be able to know on your own. So it can, sometimes young people are a little, apprehensive from giving information, but you can say, hey, I heard about this product. Somebody said it does this, or other people do that. Sometimes just inviting that open conversation and give them the opportunity to share what they know, and then kind of go from there.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
No, I just wanted to reiterate what Derek said, that, sometimes it's all about how you frame it. Using this presentation as a starter, maybe not asking, are you using, but asking, like, I learned all this information. What do you know about it? And just leave it open-ended and see where the conversation goes.
I think Ryan would like to add.
Yeah, so a way that I would see it too is tobacco and vaping has changed over time. And I feel like everyone, at a young age was always exposed to it, just in a different form. And so I feel like introducing dialogue about it, kind of about your personal experience with vaping and tobacco, might be a good jumpstart. Like, hey, when I was in high school, this was going on, or like, how has that changed? Like, because there's a very big difference from like what I hear what my parents say and to now what I see at school. It's a very big difference, but there are similarities, and I feel like introducing something that you can relate to your kid, it might really help them be more intrigued about the conversation and open up a little bit more.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for sharing that. It looks like that's all the questions that we had asked at this point. You can go ahead and move to the next slide. In the chat box, Emily has already linked some of our resources, but we also have some resources here that we wanted to share with you. We do have our TUPE website, and on our TUPE website, we have a video series with more information on vaping, the intersection between marijuana, support for students and families, and then some more tips for parents. And we have interviews with students on there. So if you're interested, you can go to our website and look at those, as well as other links to resources. We also send out a monthly e-newsletter, and in that monthly e-newsletter, you can find, we have a parent corner, and you can find out more information about resources for parents and families, and that's where we'll share some of our additional webinars that we will be offering. And then the other two resources that we wanted to share was 211, which I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but if you dial 211, you'll have access to more referrals and resources through social services, health and social services resources. So you have access to that. That's free to everyone. And then the Stanford Tobacco Toolkit is something that we've used today, and that Derek had mentioned earlier. There's parent guides or on their resources, PowerPoints, tons of information, very valuable. So I encourage you to look up the Tobacco Prevention Toolkit and check that out as well.
And can I add, I did see somebody put in the text or chat box, they were asking about, is there a presentation geared towards youth? The Tobacco Prevention Toolkit has free presentations, PowerPoints. You don't even have to know about this stuff. It's like literally download it, upload it, first slide, say this, click the button. Next slide, say this, click. It's very user-friendly. So if you did need to deliver information to young people, this is a wonderful resource that's completely free.
Yes, thank you, Derek, for adding that. And this is our first virtual family and community engagement night and our topic was vape pens. So the next ones that we will be offering are going to be November, January, March, and May. We do not have topics established yet, but those will be established, and we encourage your feedback from this presentation. On the next slide, we'll give you the link to the survey, but we wanted to make sure that you save those dates. This is our contact information. We are located at the County Office of Education, and this is our email address, and feel free to follow us on Twitter, and this is our contact number. So reach out to us if you have any other questions, or if you have a suggestion for a topic that you're interested in learning more about. And then this is a survey. We value your feedback. We encourage your feedback. Please provide your feedback. We have the survey in both English and Spanish, and you can use the QR code using the little box in your phone, or you can type out that link. I'm not sure if it's clickable through what you're using at this point, but please complete the survey. We really do value your feedback. And we just wanted to really take the time to thank you for being here. And we know that it was about an hour and a half of your time, so we appreciate you so much. And thank you. And thank you everybody on the panel for being here as well. And I'm going to leave it up for a little bit longer just in case anybody's using that QR code and getting their phones to put that on, and then click on the link, and then we'll be closing out as people start leaving.